ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठकी। नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. I welcome all of you to this morning Bhagavatam class. And we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the first chapter 3, shloka number 39. So, and I am reading this particular shloka and discussing it for the pleasure of Guru and Governor. Dear devotees, please bless me so that I can speak right words at right time in praise of Guru and Gauranga. Also, please bless me in the process of purification of my heart, and I can give you pleasure in the discourse of the shloka that we are going to undertake. So, what my entire discussion is going to be based on whatever I have heard from the Vaishnavas, Acharyas, and spiritual masters, and whatever I have read from the scriptures, Prabhupada purports, and the commentaries of Acharyas. So with these words, we go to, please forgive me if I commit any mistake in the process. This is how the verse reads. अधेय धन्या भगवंत इत्थं यद् वासुदेवे अखिल लोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मका आत्मभावं न यत्र भूया परिवर्तुग्रा अथेय धन्या भगवंत इत्थं यद् वासुदेवे अखिल लोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकम् आत्मभवम् न यत्र भूया परिवर्तुग्रा अथेय धन्या भगवंत इत्थं यद् वासुदेवे अखिल लोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकम् आत्मभवम् न यत्र भूया परिवर्तुग्रा
अथेय धन्या भगवंत इत्थं यद् वासुदेवे अखिल लोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकात्मभावम् यत्र भूया परिवर्तुग्रः धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम्
अतेव धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम्
यद्वासुदेवे खिललोकनाथे
यद्वासुदेवे खिललोकनाथे
कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकमात्मभावम्
कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकात्मभावम्
न यत्र भूया परिवर्तोग्र
न यत्र भूया परिवर्तोग्र
अतेव धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम्
अतेव धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम्
यद्वासुदेवे खिललोकनाथे
यद्वासुदेवे खिललोकनाथे
कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकम् आत्मभावम्
कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकात्मभावम्
न यत्र भूया परिवर्तोग्र
न यत्र भूया परिवर्तोग्र
माताजी
अतेव धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम् यद्वासुदेवे खिललोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकात्मभावम् न यत्र भूया परिवर्तोग्र
word to word meaning. Atha, thus, iha, in this world, dhanya, successful, bhagavanta, perfectly cognizant, itham, such, yat, what, vasudeve, unto the personality of Godhead, akhila, all embracing, lokanate, unto the proprietor of the universes, kurvanti, inspires, sarva atmakam, 100%, atma, spirit, bhavam, ecstasy, na, never, yatra, wherein, bhuvaya, again, parivarta, repetition, ugraha, dreadful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Bhakti A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant. For such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes and guarantee 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death. Purport: the inquiries of the sages, headed by Shaunaka, are herewith praised by Sutta Goswami on the merit of their transcendental nature. As already concluded, only the devotees of the Lord can know Him to a considerable extent, and no one else can know Him at all. So the devotees are perfectly cognizant of all spiritual knowledge. The personality of Godhead is the last word in absolute truth. Impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, Supersoul, are included in the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So one who knows the personality of Godhead can automatically know all about Him, His multipotencies and His expansions. So the devotees are congratulated as being all successful. A 100% devotee of the Lord is immune to the dreadful material miseries of repeated birth and death. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्री चैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वयं वदाति। वन्दे अहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सादयित्वं साधुतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगण ललिता श्री विशाखा नुतां च। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णदेव प्रदायते कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरवृषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधा वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा। Once again, I welcome you to the morning Bhagavatam class. So, in this class, we are looking at certain key points that have been mentioned in the shloka and the purport by Prabhupada. So what are the points that we are going to highlight here? One, the transcendental inquiries by the sages. Number two, the knowers of the three aspects of absolute truth, that is Krishna. What are those three aspects of absolute truth? Brahman aspect, Paramatma aspect, and Bhagavan aspect. The next point is the material world that we are part of and positioned in, and what is to be done to get out of it. And the last point is that the confidentiality of knowledge that is being imparted by Sri Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, and those include the chapter 2 to 6. The first law is knowledge of matter and spirit. This knowledge is called Guhya knowledge or confidential knowledge. The knowledge that is being described in chapter 7 and 8, it is the knowledge about bhakti or knowledge of bhakti, which is more confidential. It is Guhyatara. And what is described in chapter number 9 of Bhagavad Gita is called knowledge of Kevala Bhakti or the Ananya Bhakti, which is called most confidential knowledge or Guhyataram knowledge. So in this way, it describes the majestic aspects of Krishna in his Aishwarya and excellence of pure devotees at the same time. So these are the four or five points that we are going to highlight in our discussion. So after hearing that, so the connection, the first word, Atheya Dhanya. Atheya means what is that? The meaning is thus. So thus is a connection to the verse, the earlier verse, which is 1.3.38. And what was the content of that particular word? That only the pure devotees of the Lord are eligible to understand Lord in its totality. So the transcendental knowledge is available only to the pure devotees. This is being emphasized in the previous sloka that we studied and heard about yesterday. So what is the impact of this particular statement that is being made in the earlier sloka? When Shaunaka and other sages heard this particular thing, they started lamenting. What for? That they thought that they are not pure bhakta as it is being required as a precondition or qualification to understand transcendental truth. And therefore they consider themselves as misfit. And this particular feeling of the sages was diagnosed and understood by Suta Goswami. Therefore, what is the way of a great speaker to encourage his audience? So, in order to encourage them, he praises and congratulates them for showing the desire to hear, learn, and understand about the ultimate truth or absolute truth. That is everything pertaining to, related to the name, fame, activities, and pastimes of Lord Krishna. So, and why they are being congratulated and praised by Suta Goswami, who is the speaker for the day? Because they have made transcendental inquiries. And this is a precondition. That is, unless and until you ask any questions or raise queries, you are not likely to learn any knowledge. So this is a precondition, the inquiry spirit, and which is being shown by the sages, including Shaunaka Rishi, is being appreciated. That's why he is encouraging that, because we must understand that the whole audience was not 100% devotees. Some of them were impersonalists, some of them were yogis, and we know the background, why they were assembled together there for conducting or performing yajna, which was going on for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And now the situation is that because of the request of these Shaunakadi Rishis, the yajna is being stopped. And the speaker is being requested by the sages to talk about the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna. So this is the way in which the audience is requesting the speaker to speak about the most confidential knowledge of the Lord Krishna and his pastimes, his form, and his glories, and power and energies. So how does the Suta Goswami take this particular request of the audience, of the rishis? He takes this request as a positive sign. And therefore he says that I must thank you for giving me a chance to speak about Krishna and thereby to purify myself. He being a pure devotee of Lord, he feels like that they are giving me a chance, an opportunity to glorify the Lord about his name, fame, activities and pastimes. Because he was also attending that performance of yajna as one of the performers, one of the persons attending that particular activity. But the roles have been reversed now. The role has been changed from mere attendant or attendee to the speaker on Srimad Bhagavatam and about the Lord Krishna. So this is a very, very important thing that is being talked about Suta Goswami. And what is he going to do now? Because we know that earlier the same Suta Goswami has heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the mouth of Sukadev Goswami, his spiritual master. And he taught that particular message of Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So this is the second time that Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be talked about. The first speaker and the first listener included Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Now this is for the second time, and he says that being honest to my spiritual master, I will speak exact words as being uttered and said by my spiritual master, that's Sukadeva Goswami, the first speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the same way with honesty and sincerity. So what are the benefits that one gets of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from such a powerful speaker like Suta Goswami? The first benefit of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is that it evokes love of Godhead. It creates love of God within our hearts, within the hearts of the hearers. And the goal of life is to serve Him out of love. It is but natural to feel love for all His creation. So this is very important point, that when you start loving God in ecstatic mood, in spontaneous mood, with full faith in Him, what happens? Loving God means loving all His creations, including all human beings, living entities and non-living entities, the entire world, all the universes that have been created by the Lord. So what happens when you start loving all the creations created by Lord? Automatically you are facilitating the peace, the atmosphere of peace for the universe. And because of that peace, the coexistence becomes blissful. All the entities, living and non-living, live in a very peaceful manner, in a very congenial manner, in a friendly way, in the feeling with togetherness or coexistence. So what are the things that we need to understand here is that the first part of the Brahman knowledge. What is Brahman? That I must know about myself. What is our present condition? We consider ourselves equal to God, like that. We consider ourselves as the enjoyer. We consider ourselves as the proprietor. And therefore that is the mistake, and that needs to be corrected. Therefore, the correct understanding of Brahman is that I am the servant of God, and to serve Him is my prime duty. This knowledge is attained through inquiry. Knowing God is truth, is an important thing. So, who is the God here? He is a Lokanath. That is, He is the proprietor of everything in the world, all universes being manifested. He is the owner of all these universes, and love of Krishna burns all sinful tendencies. That is, all sinful tendencies of the hearers, of the readers, of the person who studies Srimad Bhagavatam, they are destroyed. And so this is one benefit, immediate benefit, that sinful tendencies have been burned out. And one gets immunity. Immunity means protection, freedom from the repetitious cycle of birth and death. So this is the second important benefit that one gets by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So absolute truth is about Krishna in all his auspiciousness, as it is for the ultimate good for all the humanity. So why hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is so auspicious, so meaningful? Because it takes care of the welfare of the entire humanity. All the questions pertaining to the well-being and the welfare of humanity are being talked about and discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, going back to the earlier verse number 38 of chapter 3 of Canto 1, which says that one who renders unreserved, uninterrupted, and favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence. So this is what the earlier sloka has said, and therefore our understanding should be to understand such a transcendental Lord. What should be our understanding? That he is my master and I am his eternal servant. Such a devotee is freed from the repeated unending cycle of birth and death. So what is the plea, what is the request that he is making? That we need to cultivate a knowledge, the confidential knowledge, the more confidential knowledge and the most confidential. That is knowledge about spirit and soul, knowledge about bhakti and knowledge about ananya bhakti. The second more confidential knowledge, the knowledge of bhakti is in terms of knowledge of super soul. So the people who know, the knowers of the transcendental knowledge are called Bhagavanta here, or Bhagavan. Why they are so fortunate? Because they know the intricacies, the multiplicity of the meaning of the absolute truth. And because of this particular desire to know about absolute truth, the same desire is being expressed in the past, in the history of bhakti, by two hearers. And who were they? The first was Arjuna. He expressed his desire. He started asking series of questions to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And whatever answers are given by Lord Krishna pertaining to the questions being asked by Arjuna are nothing but the entire message of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is nothing but the result of this particular dialogue that happens between the disciple and the spiritual master. In the same way, Srimad Bhagavatam is also the result of the dialogue, question and answer between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. So this is the benefit. Just imagine by inquiring into certain aspects of the knowledge of God, such beautiful creations happen. So you can just imagine if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam on day-to-day basis, regularly, attentively, and sincerely, all of your sinful reactions are taken care of. You are completely freed from the sinful reactions. You are enjoying the ecstatic love. Ecstatic means the love which is greatest of the great. That is Brahmananda. Ecstatic love means Brahmananda. So these are some of the important aspects that we get out of this particular sloka. So before we enter into the direct discussion of the sloka, I will cite few commentaries by the earlier acharyas. And I have got three commentaries to present before you. The first commentary is by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he talks about Srimad Bhagavatam in Sarartha Darshan. His Tika is included in that particular book, which is almost a parallel to Srimad Bhagavatam. He is discussing all the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam with his own commentaries. So here, in this particular commentary, he says, Suta Goswami speaks to Chaunaka and the sages of Naimisharanya who were lamenting. And we know that why they were lamenting, why they were feeling guilty, because they were not having the first qualification to understand transcendental knowledge. That is, to be devotee of the Lord. They were not having the sufficient quantum of bhakti or devotional service. And that was one of the lacunas that they were lamenting for. So I quote, since we are without bhakti, so this was their feeling of guilt and lamentation, that they found themselves devoid of minus devotee. And therefore, they were prepared to become object of criticism. According to Vaishnava Nirukti, Sarvagya Veti Vigyan Avigyan Sacha Vacho Bhagavan. The word Bhagavan means who knows knowledge and ignorance. And thus, in these words, Bhagavanta means knowledgeable sages rather than great devotees of the Lord. So this is very important. That they were knowledgeable, but they were not equally competent devotees of the Lord. This is a central comment that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making in this particular commentary. So, since they were not so advanced in bhakti, so when person concentrates their minds in bhakti completely, that is the word that we have seen in our sloka, Sarvatmakam Atma Bhavam, or Vasudeva, that is Sri Krishna. By asking such questions, there is no more repetition of birth and death. So this is what Srila Chakravarti Thakur has got to say in his commentary on this particular shloka. The second commentary that I have got, it is from Srila Vijay Ratnavali. Here he says, and it is in Hindi, Bhagavad, the word Bhagavad भी आपके जैसे होने चाहिए, इसलिए यह श्लोक कर रहे हैं। भगवान अर्थात पूज्य या भाग्यवान, क्योंकि जहाँ भगवान में आत्मभाव है अर्थात स्वामी भृत मास्टर सर्वेंट रिलेशनशिप मूड भाव क्रियमाण है, वहाँ पुनः क्रूर जन्म मृत्यु संसार नहीं होता। अखिल लोकनाथ अंतर्यामी भगवान वासुदेव में इस प्रकार का आपका आत्मभाव है। इस कारण से ऐसी चेतना कॉन्शियसनेस युक्त होने के कारण आप निरपेक्ष गुणपूर्ण है अर्थात कृतकृत्य है। इस प्रकार के भाव से पुनः जन्म की आवृत्ति नहीं होती है। So again and again, all the commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam of this particular shloka are saying one and the same thing, that the knowledge of Bhagavan makes you very fortunate and you are freed from the repeated cycle of birth and death in this world. And third and the last commentary that I am presenting you is by Srila Giridhar Lal Prut, and it is from Bal Prabodhini. It is also in Hindi. इस प्रकार प्रसंग को कहकर भक्ति मार्ग में प्रवृत्त ऋषियों को अभिनंदन इस श्लोक में कर रहे हैं। सुत गोस्वामी is congratulating the ऋषि, क्योंकि भक्ति ही भागवत तत्व को जानते हैं, इसलिए भगवंता अर्थात आप लोग सर्वज्ञ है। This is the nice way of encouraging the audience, encouraging the sages and calling them सर्वज्ञ, that is all knowers. भगवंता शब्द का अर्थ है उत्पत्तिम प्रलयम चैव भूतानाम अगतिम गति वेत्ति विद्याम अविद्याम च वाचो. So this is again a commentary which is repeating the same thing that is being said by their speakers. So how to get this particular knowledge? We need to have a good association of devotees. So association of devotees is another condition to get this knowledge and to get benefited from such knowledge. Therefore, here, if the knowledge is to be sought in the company of the devotees, so what is to be done? So I will give you a few examples. What is the effect of association in the process of learning and hearing of such great knowledge like Srimad Bhagavatam or the absolute knowledge about Lord Krishna? So knowledge means to know about God, and this knowledge can be had and enjoyed in the company of bhaktas. And so, for getting this knowledge, we need two Bhagavad. One, a book Bhagavad, and another person Bhagavad. So, person Bhagavad means the association of devotees. So, we need these two components to get the complete confidential knowledge on and about Lord Krishna. So, what are the examples that we can see just to start the discussion of the benefits of association? Number one, साधु से साधु मिले तो करे शास्त्र चर्चा. So when a devotee meets another devotee, the point of discussion, the topic of discussion is Shastra, scriptures. Who am I? What is my relationship with God? Who is God? And how to understand God with his multiplicity of his energies, potencies, and expansions, and avtaras, and all these things. So, the topic of discussion between the devotees is pertaining to the scriptures and the shastras. This is one example. That is a positive example. Let us look at the negative one. जब बीमार बीमार से मिले, जब बीमार बीमार से मिले तो करे बीमारी की चर्चा. So when a patient or diseased person meets the another patient or diseased person, he will discuss nothing but about the disease or ailment that he is suffering from. So this is a patient will discuss about his recovery, degree of recovery, the degree of his suffering, all those things. And the third one, the extreme one, चोर चोर से मिले तो करे चोरी की चर्चा. So what is the point of discussion about amongst the thieves? So they will discuss about the various strategies of and about stealing. How skillful one should be in the act of stealing. For example, if you want to steal ATM of SBI, so and you know that how many strategies they have evolved so far. They will kidnap the entire ATM machine, number one. Number two, they will use electronic device and cut the bottom of the device and download the entire quantum of money. And so many things. So this is the way of the association. If you are in the association of people who are in a negative tendencies, negative capabilities, the impact will be negative. When you are in the company of the positive people and people with positive energies, the impact will be positive and will be of well-being and good. So here, the extreme examples to contradict this, that association matters. Association, whether good or bad, impacts us. We have seen during these three examples. But there is one very positive example which contradicts to the statements that we have made so far. And what is that example? Can you guess who is that person who contradicts to the statement that we have made? That sadhu se mile to kare scriptures की चर्चा और शास्त्र की चर्चा, चोर चोर से मिले तो करे चोरी की चर्चा, रोगी रोगी से मिले तो करे रोग की चर्चा. So here the example that we are talking about is Prahlad Maharaj. What was his environment? What was his surrounding that he was born and brought up? He was born and brought up in a demonic family, a negative background. And in spite of that, he could pursue, he could follow the process of bhakti. He could not allow the bhakti process to be disturbed, kept it intact. Why? For two reasons. He carried the DNA of bhakti from the womb of his mother, and whose instructions that he was carrying about bhakti and various ramifications of bhakti and devotional service, he was instructed by Narad Muni. when he was in the womb of his mother. And so he got the entire knowledge, the various aspects of confidentiality of absolute truth before the birth. So after the birth, when he found himself in a very opposite situation, is not going to promote or favorable for the pursuit of bhakti, he started learning in a school, and school which was run by again the demonic teachers, sons of Shukracharya, the head of the demonic educational institutes, like that. And so they are giving him the knowledge of all material world, economics and politics and whatnot, which will fit him into the footsteps of his father, Hiranyakashipu. So they are trying to make him as a successor of his father to run the kingdom, to rule the world. But he did exactly opposite. Why? Because of the seed, Bhakti Lata Beej was there, and he started sprouting it, blossoming it in the company of his classmates. He was not paying attention to what is being taught in the class by his teachers very seriously. And during the recess, during the free time when the classes are not there, he used to teach his classmates. This is very important part. How to enrich your own devotion is by teaching, by preaching to others. So he started preaching his classmates, and they were wonderstruck. They were surprised to know that these are the things which are not being taught in our class by our teachers. And how could he know in such detail, in such a beautiful way, the kind of explanation he is providing for the knowledge of self, for the knowledge of Lord, the connection between the self and knowledge, and etc., etc. So they are wonderstruck. So in this way, Prahlad Maharaj provides an example that even in a bad situation, in a bad environment, one can keep the pursuit of bhakti intact if he has got such intention and if he is deeply rooted into bhakti. So this inquiry, what are the benefits of inquiry? As I told you that they facilitate your understanding of the absolute truth. And absolute truth is manifested in three aspects. And what are those aspects? The Brahman knowledge, the knowledge of Paramatma, that is super soul, and the knowledge of Bhagavan as the prominent aspect of absolute truth. So how it happens? Inquiries bring understanding of Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. And Bhagavan represents perfect knowledge, absolute truth. When you understand yourself, then you can understand Paramatma and Bhagavan aspect of the absolute truth. So what is that absolute truth is doing to you? The first question it answers, what is my relationship with the Lord Krishna? And this knowledge is a gift coming from the authorities, Shastra, spiritual masters, acharyas. And therefore, you need to qualify to understand that yourself, knowledge of yourself, that you are Brahman, and this is to be done by yourself. Knowing the self by yourself, this is the first thing that you need to do. And after you know that, who am I? That is, I am the spirit soul, I am not this body. I am not the master, I am not the enjoyer, I am not the proprietor, but I am the eternal servant of the Lord. And to serve Him eternally is my prime duty. So these are the certain things, once they are fixed in, which we call Vyavasayatmik Buddhi. Once you are fixed into devotion, you automatically start understanding that what is Paramatma and what is Bhagavan. So, Krishna can reveal himself to only self-realized person. The knowledge of Paramatma and the knowledge of Bhagwan will come through the person who is self-realized, who is the knower of Brahman aspect of absolute truth. And who is the right person to tell you what is self-realization? That is, a self-realized person can tell you about it as he has seen and realized it by himself. And who is such a person according to you? A self-realized person who can help us in the process of understanding the process of self-realization. Our spiritual master, immediately our spiritual master, our acharyas, our gurus, parampara, all these people that we call authorities. So authorities help us in understanding ourselves and understanding Paramatma and understanding the Bhagwan aspect of absolute truth. So we can have we have already seen that by such inquiries, asking such inquiries, we have seen that the benefit of such inquiries is that first it evokes the love for the Lord, ecstatic love of the Lord in your heart. And the number two, it sets you free from the repeated cycle of birth and death. So what is this world that we are a part of, that we'll see? So the Brahman aspect can be understood through the example of a very famous and very easy example. And that is the example that we find in take the example of your favorite sweet, gulab jamun, which you get in your prasadam in temple, at least on Sundays. So, how do we realize gulab jamun? So, I am using the analogy of gulab jamun to describe and to explain the three aspects of realization. So, the first person who goes into kitchen, we are talking about the kitchen of the temple, not the individual or our home kitchen. So, the first person who goes in the kitchen, how would he know that what is being cooked? How would he know that the gulab jamun, the process of gulab jamun making is on? By the strong smell of that, the fragrance of that particular sweet gives him an idea, and he jumps to a conclusion that yes, today we are eating gulab jamun being served as a sweet dish. And he comes back from the kitchen. Then the second person visits the kitchen. So what he will do? He will smell. He will see. And what he will see? The size, the form of the gulab. What are the two possible sizes of gulab jam? Either they are round or they are, what is that? Huh? Okay, cylindrical. So these are the two sizes. So he has smelled it, he has seen the form, and he has touched also. He has seen the color also, the brown color, very tempting color, etc. And it is very hot. He has touched also. And he comes back. The third person is the key person for us. So he goes to the kitchen and area where the food is served. Now the entire prasadam is ready. The gulab jam, along with the other ingredients of prasadam thali, is being offered to the Lord. And after offering, the prasadam is being served to all the devotees. So the third devotee is the devotee who is tasting it. So before tasting, what he is doing? He has also seen it. He has also realized its form, its texture, its color, its nature, whether it is hot or not hot, it is with a juice or not juice, like liquid, and he is enjoying the taste. So, by looking at these three examples, how the gulab jam as a sweet is being realized by these three persons. The first person just concludes that today we are getting gulab jam only because of the smell of the sweet is like a Brahman realization. It is a partial one, a limited one. The second person who goes to that particular realization realizes it in a better way in comparison to the Brahman realization. He has more meaningful realization at a Paramatma level. And the third one, who has tasted, who has smelled, who has touched, who has seen, who has felt, is the person who realizes Gulab Jam in totality, in total component, is a perfect realization of Bhagwan aspect of absolute truth. So this can be explained by another example. Our famous example of the train being seen by three different villagers. The first person sees it by realizes it that there is a smoke coming and there is a whistle being blown by that particular engine. It is steam engine, of course. This example is based on the older railway engine. So by the smoke and the whistle sound, he realizes that train is coming. The second villager sees that when the train stops at the platform, he sees the entire train, that it has got engine, it has got 12 compartments, it has got first class, second class, and all sleeper coaches and their guards and the driver, etc. So this is the second person who sees train on the platform after its arrival. The third person, what he will do, he enters in the train. And in a compartment, he could see that there are beautiful seats. There is a sleeping arrangement. There are curtains. There are fans. There are toiletries. There is water. There is, what is that? Cushion. There is sleeping mattress, etc. So he gets the complete idea of what constitutes, what makes a train a train. So this is the way, again, the same example. So the Brahman realization and Paramatma realization, this is very important, is included into the Bhagwan realization. The third and the final realization takes care of the earlier ones. The enjoyer of the Gulab Jam has to have the smell of it and has to have the touch and the smell and the size and whatnot, the form of it. So in this way, the realization of God happens through these examples. So the confidential knowledge is regarding Brahman, and it is talked about in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, from 51 to 54. And what is that stage? It's called in that particular Bhagavad Gita shlokas, Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta, who knows that like him, everyone is part and parcel of God. The more confidential knowledge is described the knowledge of Super Soul in chapter 18 from shloka number 61 to 63. And it gives us more confidential knowledge. The most confidential knowledge comes through surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is given in chapter 18 in shlokas from 64 to 66. So, when you understand these three manifestations of absolute truth in totality with the help of spiritual master or authorities, what happens? He guides, that is, God Himself guides pure devotees to help the person in the process of realization of all these three components of absolute truth. And due to their constant engagement in loving service of the Lord in a spontaneous, affectionate manner. So, such spiritual masters are eligible to guide us in the process of understanding all these three aspects of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan realization of absolute truth, which is the central point of inquiry that is being made by these devotees. Sages. Next point is that if this is the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, and if we want to really go deep into our bhakti process, in our devotion, what are the immediate things that we can do as an audience in the temple itself? And I am addressing you as the direct experimenting personalities. You are experimenting. And how that happens? The incarnations of God, Krishna, can be interacted with directly. We know that Krishna has got many incarnations that you must have heard about in the earlier lectures. Now, the two immediate incarnations of Lord Krishna are Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna. They are non-different. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam is equal to worshipping Krishna in person, number one. And number two, Nama Nami. They are non-different. Hare Krishna Mahamantra is non-different from Krishna. And therefore, by chanting attentively, by chanting meaningfully, especially during Brahma Muhurta, and by reading, hearing, and studying Srimad Bhagavatam, you can facilitate pure devotion in the company of association, in the temple premises. That you have been doing, therefore you are very fortunate. Every day you are getting to listen to, hear about each and every sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you are very fortunate. And therefore you are in search of, you want to understand the real meaning of absolute truth through the process of your chanting, through the process of your hearing. Because Shravanam is one of the key components of Navada Bhakti in understanding the Lord, in understanding the pure Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti. And this is being confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita once again in chapter 4, shloka 9, where he says, Jalma karmacha meva divyam evam yu eti tatvata vyakta deham punar jalma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. He says, oh Arjuna, if you know about me, about my appearances, about my activities, the knowledge about me and my personality, my form, my energy, my pastimes, my activities facilitates you in setting free completely from the cycle of death and birth. You will not see another birth or next birth. This birth will be your last birth. This is guaranteed by Krishna to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. So for us, Bhagavad Gita is a theory component of Bhakti, whereas Srimad Bhagavatam is an applied component of Bhakti. If Bhakti is such and such, it is defined in Bhagavad Gita, how it happens in the company of devotees, how it happens in the dialogue between the spiritual master and disciple, and devotees and devotees, and disciples, and different pastimes. So all these aspects are being described beautifully in Srimad Bhagavatam. So theory and practice, like a science student, you learn about physics and chemistry first in your classroom, and that you verify in the laboratory with the apparatuses and liquids or spirits, whatever. So the same is the logic here. So Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are the two important texts besides Chaitanya Charitamrita and other texts being written and provided with purpose by Srila Prabhupada are our treasures that we can rely on, that we can depend on for the enrichment of. So these are some of the points that I wanted to share with you. So if you look at the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, also, Sankirtan movement, which got promoted by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is the captain of that particular ship of Sankirtan movement. So what is that? He has done three important components on which the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is based on. Name Ruchi. That is your interest, Ruchi in Nam, that is chanting. Vaishnava Seva, service of devotee. And Jivadaya, compassion for all creations of the God. So if you take care of these three components, your bhakti is taken care of. And in short, we can conclude by saying that Name Ruchi, Vaishnava Seva and Jivodaya, that is another way of saying is that the first is aspiration to serve. You should have a desire to serve the Lord and to serve the devotees. Number two, you should have the capacity to act, that is action to serve. First, desire to serve, action, activity to serve, and third, access to serve. That you must have the facility to serve. And what is that facility? Temples like this. Here you get that access to serving the Lord and His devotees in a beautiful way. So, this is the another point that I wanted to share with you. So, once again, I will repeat the key points that we have discussed so far. Number one, by making intelligent inquiries into the transcendental nature of Lord, one becomes successful and cognizant of all knowing knowledge. Number two, such inquiries invoke ecstatic love of Lord or for Lord. We also come to know that He is the owner of all universes. And such knowledge resultant of inquiries guarantees 100% immunity, protection, and freedom from the repetitious cycle of dreadful birth and death. The inquiries of the sages headed by Shiromani Rishi are praised and congratulated by Sutta Goswami for asking relevant questions pertaining to the well-being of humanity. As per the previous shloka, that is 1.3.38, only the pure devotees of the Lord can know Him to a considerable extent. This is very important point. Nobody in this world can know God 100%. Up to a certain extent means to a manageable extent. That by and large you understand God. These are the constituent parts of the Lord. And no one else can know God if he is not a devotee. Devotee of the Lord is a knower of all spiritual knowledges. This is another important point. And one who knows the Bhagavan aspect of personality of Godhead easily knows about his Brahman and Paramatma aspect as well. And he also knows about his various energies and potencies and expansions and avtaras. So in conclusion, what are the takeaway points? What is that you are going to take away from this shloka? Number one, realizing Krishna means seeing everything as Krishna's energy. Everything, from insect to human being, from tree to animal and bird. So, this is the realization that you will carry, that everything belongs to Krishna and his energy, including water, light, and whatnot, nature. Goal of life is self-realization. That unless I know myself, I cannot know the other devotees. I cannot know the Lord. I cannot know the spiritual master and whosoever is subject of my knowledge. So hearing about description of Lord Krishna, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, brings us to the platform of self-realization that you have been doing on day-to-day basis. So three aspects of realization of absolute truth, that is impersonal Brahman, Paramatma aspect, and personal Bhagavan, is achieved through bhakti only, and that is bhakti of Vasudeva. And once you know this bhakti, it is the perfect knowledge that you need to pursue in your life. By developing a taste for transcendental knowledge, one is freed from the intricacy, that is mamatva bhav. What is the bhav that we have got in today's world? That is I, me, mine. This is mine, this is mine, this my car, my Bangalore, my wife, my children, etc. So that you come out of that particular mamatva bhav. Only self-realized person, that is spiritual master, can tell us about transcendental knowledge as he has seen and realized by himself. So, Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya, that is hearing Bhagavatam on daily basis, chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra attentively, and eating only prasadam will purify your heart from the material contamination. And by making such inquiries, one becomes successful in life. Love of Krishna burns all sinful reactions and gets immunity from the cycle of birth and death. So what is, I just forgot to mention you that what is our position? We are part and parcel of material world. So I will conclude this particular discussion of material world and our position into it by three terminologies, three words that characterize our position in material world. The first one is Hari, H-U-R-R-Y. Second one is worry, W-O-R-R-Y. And third one is sorry. So sorry, worry and sorry characterizes, describe the entire material position of ours in material world, our material existence. So what happens in worry? Worry means impatient. We are very impatient. We want everything, instant result, instant copy like that. You push the button and you get the copy like that. So what is that? We are in a hurry to get degrees, to get job, to get a good job of salary, to marry, to have children, to have house, to have car, etc., etc. Resulting into material enjoyment. You want to enjoy life. That's why you are in hurry. And this happens during your young age. The second stage, the stage of worry. This is the middle age. And what happens in the middle age? Just imagine you lost your job because of corona or because of some unemployment issue worldwide. What happens? You are lamenting. You are a run-out case in the cricket terminology. You are not neither here nor there. So what happens? Why you are lamenting? Because you have got many liabilities to take care of, responsibilities to fill. What are those? You have borrowed housing loan, you have borrowed car loan, you have borrowed education loan for sending your son or daughter into foreign universities. Just imagine, goody picture. When he was in a job, now he is out of job. So the lamentation is the feature of this middle stage. The third stage, sorry stage. So why one feels sorry? Because he has lost the opportunity to know the right things at the right time. And that lost opportunity that he is feeling sorry about. Instead of following the material pursuit, he should have followed the spiritual pursuit and should have taken shelter of Bhakta or Bhagavad or Bhagavatam. So this is how things happen in the material world. We know that God controls the material world by two energies. What are those two energies which are very prominent in the material world that we can feel and experience? The first one is Maya. Three modes of material nature. The mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And Kala, that is time, the cycle of time, by Samargo or Mahabharata. begins with that one. So the time will always decrease your own possibilities or qualities. So this is the way in which one can look at. So instead of, so use the material body that has been given to you fortunately because of your punya karma of earlier births. So use it in your realization, self-realization, realizing Paramatma aspect, realizing God aspect, and serving Bhagavatam and Bhagavad. The Bhagavatam book and the Bhagavatam person, so that you can achieve the desired desire and you get peace and love of God. So, thank you very much for your patience, really. We could have a few questions if there are any queries. Questions? I'm going on, son. Okay. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। फिर भक्त